Hello, everybody! You're probably wondering why I've gathered you all here today, and it's because I want to talk about drugs. More specifically, I want to talk about why I did drugs, why I stopped, and what I learned from it. And I just want to preface this, one, by saying that I am sick right now, so if I lose my voice and cough during this video, or if I sound weird, that is why. And second off, I just wanted to say that I think that God puts things in people's lives for a reason. And I think that when you go through so much in such a short period of time, there needs to be some relief in there. Otherwise, what are you to do? There's only so much pain and suffering a person can handle before they mentally break. So I think that drugs, or what have you, was put in my path by God so that I could learn, so that I could be comforted when I wasn't strong enough to handle and integrate who I am. And I would be dead without drugs, probably. So I'm not trying to say that my life was worse or better than anyone else's. I did have a hard childhood, but the worst day of my life is the same as the worst day of your life. It's all subjective, so I don't like to throw that at people unless they're throwing shots at me. But and that was personal. That was like a particular, that comment was about two particular situations in my life. So I'm not just out here fucking making people feel bad for their lives unless it's warranted. But anyways, I remember being really interested with drugs when I was younger. Just kind of curious and fascinated. It's interesting to me how chemicals control everything that we perceive and feel in life. And it can all be changed by even something as simple as an antidepressant prescribed by your doctor. Everything, every chemical that you consume, even if it's from food, the things that, everything is chemicals. It's just cool to me. The little chemist in me is just like, what is all this? But, yeah, I remember being interested, and I was also quite an anxious and sad child, and I was very inward and introverted. So I was extroverted at school, and stuff, I think, but I was very much a homebody, not necessarily by my own choice, but I spent a lot of time alone and playing by myself, especially since my older sister is 5 years older than me, and my younger sister is 8 years younger. So I was kind of in leeway, and at my dad's I was an only child, so that adds to that. But I remember in middle school when we did these presentations on drugs, and I chose MDMA, and when I was researching MDMA for this presentation, I think the whole point of the presentation was to like research them and like basically talk about why they're bad and why you shouldn't do them. But my presentation 2 years in a row was about like the potential positive uses and benefits in doing certain drugs, such as MDMA or mushrooms or LSD, that sort of a thing. I was very into the psychedelics when I was younger, researching them, and I did want to try them at some point. And I remember expressing to my mom once that I wanted to smoke weed when I grew up, and she was like, "Don't say that." And true, like, no one wants their like 9 or 11-year-old saying they want to smoke weed when they're older, but I just thought it was interesting. I thought it was cool. And it was. I was right. My first time drinking, I remember I just felt very euphoric. I felt very happy. And like I didn't care much about all of the circumstances in my life. I didn't drink very often, and my friends weren't really at that point. I had some friends who did drink, but most of my close friends were very like, no, we don't do that. So I did it alone most of the time. It wasn't very often, but it was a thing that I partook in probably around 8th grade, I'd say, occasionally. And I first smoked weed after, I'm going to go into this in my story of my life series because there's so much that happened, but I had moved from my mom's to my dad's. I had already been being accused of smoking weed ever since I moved to my dad's because I was friends with upperclassmen boys and they were known to smoke, and it was just a rumor that was going around basically that I was also smoking, even though it wasn't true. I smoked weed for the first time. I remember it was like 2 days after my 15th birthday, one or two, because it was on the Memorial Day after my birthday that year. And at first that was just like a fun time between me and my friends. They were like, "Oh, you've never smoked. We should get some weed. We should me." And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it. I've never done it. I've always wanted to." And it was super fun. But what I noticed immediately was that it made me go to sleep and it made me so hungry. And I had really bad problems with undereating and with insomnia. I think both were anxiety related, but I also had undiagnosed celiac disease, and things just made me sick. And there was also a bit of food insecurity at that time, not gonna lie. Living with my dad, we just didn't have much money. And everything that we did buy had gluten in it, pretty much. Like I was eating white bread and noodles, so not much you can do there. But the weed made me very hungry and very tired. I slept for a full night, and I back then I was getting 3 to 4 hours of sleep every night. And when I would fall asleep, I would wake up because I was having horrific nightmares. And it was awful, super awful, but we made it. Anyway, yeah, it became not a super regular thing for me. It wasn't like an everyday thing right off the bat, but, and especially back then, my tolerance was so I could just take one little hit and then put it out, and a gram would last me like a month and a half. I was not by any means a pothead stoner, you know. I found my new medicine, you know what I mean? It was really helpful for me back then. And when people did find out that I was, by people I mean my mom and whatever, she made me do this like Rule 25 drug assessment with a social worker at the county building, like at the courthouse. And I passed it, and then I passed my drug test because I wasn't smoking weed that much. Like, it wasn't that big of a hassle for me to stop at all. I was just using it because it was positively affecting me. It was benefiting me. Helping me sleep, helping me eat, helping me concentrate. I was still a very good student back then. Yeah. And I remember I was living with a boyfriend when I was around 16, when I first got kind of like the idea of wanting to do other drugs. I tried ecstasy and Molly. Those were the first two hard drugs that I did. They are considered hard drugs, but honestly, how hard are they? Because they're legal for therapeutic use now in most states, and they're really, it's, as far as street drugs go, they're really not that dangerous. You're more likely to die of dehydration on the drug than you are of a drug overdose from the drug, if that makes sense. You just have to know how to take care of yourself well, and you have to not do it very often. I'm not saying that you should go and try it by any means, I wouldn't advocate for anything because everything affects people differently, and you might not enjoy your experience, and who am I to say? So everyone has to be an individual and make their own decisions when it comes to what they want to put in their body, and don't let other people sway you about it. Do your research and make your own decision. That's how I always have felt about it. I remember trying mushrooms for the first time with a bunch of friends, and it was very intense and very eye-opening, and I would say spiritually eye-opening, and just a very special time that I'll always hold close to me, both of those experiences. Honestly, every trip that I've ever had has taught me an immense amount about myself and about other people and about how you should behave in the world. They seem to perfectly coincide with religion. Make that make sense. Especially DMT, don't even get me started. I'll have future story times about like all of my trip experiences and my experiences with DMT, because those are a whole video in and of themselves. Because it was crazy, and I learned so much, and I met God once, I think. I don't know what it was, but it seemed like it knew everything. But I went on trying different things. I wouldn't say necessarily completely out of numbing or out of self-hatred or out of any malice, really. It was, for me, a pure curiosity. And I did have a lot of fun. I did put myself in some dangerous situations a few times, but while some of that does coincide with drug use, it just also kind of goes with the territory of being homeless as a teenager and being an attractive female. Homeless teenager kind of puts you in dangerous situations in and of themselves, whether or not drugs are involved, I would think. So, a lot of people prey on vulnerable people. I guess that's what I mean about that. But I came to a point where it stopped serving me. Every time that I tried to trip or do Molly or do any drug, even it got to a point with weed too, where when I was smoking every day, it was like right after I would take it, there was like a little voice in my head, which I can only think of as God, being like, you shouldn't have done that. And after a while, I started to listen to it, where I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I taking all this stuff? Why can't I sit by myself? It almost felt like, okay, I'm bored. Like, enough is enough. Who am I? Who am I without all of these things that are covering up the pain that I'm trying to run from? I just felt ready to face everything. And I decided that enough was enough, and I didn't want to mask myself anymore, and I didn't want to run away from who I am anymore. And so I stopped. And I also noticed that a lot of people that I had hung out with in the past didn't seem to have the same self-awareness about what they were doing that I did. And I watched a lot of their lives fall apart. And it was really sad and scary, and it just made me think, well, that could have been me. If I had made the wrong move here, the wrong move there, that could have very well, it could have been me. And I don't think I'm smarter or better than anybody else necessarily, and life is all about decisions. So it could have been me. And I decided that it's not worth it. You know, I had my fun. I discovered what I wanted to. I tried to beat fear, and I think that I did it. But there was just no point in it anymore. But what I learned is that God puts things in your path when you're not strong enough to handle what you're going through. And when he starts telling you that you don't need it anymore, listen. Because everything just starts flowing for you in a way. And it's not even about giving up drugs, it can be about giving up any crutch, bad relationships where you feel like you just don't want to be alone, or different things. There's different things it can be applied to, but the analogy I like to look at it as with is when your leg's broken, you wear a cast and you use a crutch, but then you don't leave it on once your leg is healed. You take it off and you do rehab if you need to, and you learn how to do the things that you needed to do to be your full functioning self. And that was something that I had lost sight of a little bit from the ages of 18 to 21, especially. I probably haven't done any hard drugs since 2020. Maybe a little sooner, maybe a year later. I'm not sure exactly when I took my last little time to experiment, but it's long done with for me. Who knows, maybe someday again I would like to trip. That's probably the only thing I think I would do. Occasionally smoke some pot, you know. It's legal, why not? But you just don't need things as much as you think you need things. And you're dulling yourself out. You're taking away from who you actually are just because you want some comfortability and familiarity. It's not worth it. The only way out is through. You literally just gotta look in the mirror, have a journal next to you, cry it out, figure it out. Work hard. Figure out what you want to do, who you want to be. Yeah. That's what I've been doing, and it's been working. Yeah. I've also learned that people treat you way fucking differently. Way differently. And no one would listen to me back then. Everyone thought that I was doing drugs, that they thought I was habitually doing hard drugs. I've never bought cocaine. I've never, all these things that people would assume of me that I've just like had a habit of doing, it's been an occasional thing. I've never been a user of hard drugs. And wouldn't you think that it would show in my face? Jesus. People would always make comments about my body as well when I was like 18 to 21, because that was when I got actually diagnosed with celiac disease initially and started the gluten-free diet. So then I finally started putting on weight, but I was getting cross-contaminated all the time and I wasn't taking it seriously. I would go to Quick Trip and buy like a box of donuts because I just love donuts. I'm so sad I can't have them. But I was very skinny because I wasn't taking proper care of myself, and I only weighed like 105 pounds. So everyone was like, she's on drugs. And I was like, I'm actually just sick. Please help me. I don't have health insurance. And yeah, now that I'm healthier looking, I feel as though I could do hard drugs and no one would even notice or care. And it's weird how there's this stigma attached to people that do certain things. And then people will think of you in that same way, even after you get better, and it's like they lose some sort of respect for you, which is interesting, because we're all just people, and who's to say that I'm better than you or you're better than me at all? We have different lives. I don't know. Thought that was an interesting thing, though, so I wanted to note that, because that is something that I learned about humanity. They will kick you while you're down. And assume their asses off. Crazy. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got. So, hope you liked it. Maybe someone can relate. Let me know. And yeah, I'm gonna work on music for the rest of the day. Guess what? My microphone is fucking broken and I have it electrical taped into my phone so that it like connects properly. And I've had that microphone for probably 6 years, and I'm sad to see it go, you know? I'm just gonna keep rigging it like this and taping it to my phone so it actually works, because I really don't want to order a new one. Guess I'm gonna have to if I want to. I mean, or I could just get an audio interface and use my actual nice big microphone. I think that's a better plan. Use what you already got. Feel me? Anyway, love you guys, kind of. I don't know half of you, but some of you that watch this, I know you in real life, and I love you dearly. Still love you, still love everyone, because you're humans, but yeah, I'm being weird. I'm gonna leave now.